On today's episode, I have the pleasure of interviewing Jean Atman, who is a soul evolution coach and energy medicine specialist. And she is a leading expert on how to break free of negative life experiences for good. She is well known in her industry as the go-to girl for helping people heal from toxic relationships and past traumas so that they can live a life filled with potential and ease. And she has assisted over 20,000 people up-level their lives in her 21-year professional career and remains fiercely dedicated to that cause. Jean believes everyone can live a life of their dreams, and she is thoroughly enjoying helping them tap into that potential. Jean, welcome to Monetize the Mic.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
Yes, we have already been chit-chatting, as I love to do in my green room chat. I always tell my clients, like, get ready for that green room chat, because that's often where there's like great conversation happening before the recording starts. So we've already been enjoying each other's company, and I'm excited to interview you because we love talking about personal development on this podcast. Because when people, over the 8 years that I've been running interview connections and helping people get interviewed on podcasts and helping people monetize them, like I get asked, what sets people apart? Like your clients that are successful, why are they successful? And it really all comes down to their beliefs, right? The clients that we have that see that return on investment, that see that high ticket client close within a few months of signing up, like the difference between them and a lot of other people is that they just believe it's going to happen. So like, yeah, it's going to happen. Now tell me what actions I need to take, but like, I already know it's going to happen. And that is it, versus let's see if it works. That is like the kiss of death, right? Can you talk a little bit more about limiting beliefs?
Yeah, it's a huge part of my work, actually, because I think that we subscribe to beliefs long before we know we subscribe to them, right? And a lot of our beliefs are tucked away and hidden in our subconscious mind. And so people that are having challenges and struggles in life, I can always find some limiting beliefs that is preventing them from living a life full of ease. There's something that's creating an obstacle that says, you don't deserve this. This isn't going to work for you. There's some underlying cause of that. But what's so cool about it is when we can see those things, we can then choose something different for ourselves. So once we unearth that stuff, we can easily unpack it and create something much more improved way of living and a much more beautiful life experience.
Yeah. So I actually just started reading, it's coincidental timing, but I just started reading Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Are you familiar with that book?
No, I haven't read it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You have to read it. It's like it's very similar to this, right? He's talking all about how sort of the devil is like getting into people's minds, and they're kind of going and like overthinking or going down rabbit holes, that type of thing. And when you can actually take control of your beliefs and your thoughts, that's when you become successful, right? You don't let those negative beliefs take control of you. And in this book, it's like, that's the devil. So it's a really interesting book. So I had to ask, because I just started diving into that.
Yeah, of course. Well, and it's interesting too, because with beliefs, when you think things, if you think about sort of how that travels through, when you have a thought about something, it increases or encourages or invokes an emotion, right? So how you feel then creates your energy body. And for me, my work is all about energy, because as we have, even limiting beliefs show up as energetic congestion in our field. So sometimes people will have trouble moving through the old belief systems because it literally is part of their energy. So when we start to decongest the field and clear that energy body, then they don't have as much struggle in changing, because they're not trying to move through all sorts of congestion.
Yeah.
So you think, thoughts create emotions, emotions create energy. Once you clear that, you have just kind of a free path then to choose more easily for yourself.
Yeah. So let's get into some tips, because I love like actionable tips, especially around mindset and energy and belief work, because it can seem so abstract, but there actually are so many tips that people can take and really see this instantaneous result. So can you talk about some of your top tips for breaking free of the past, right? The past is often what creates these beliefs and patterns. So what are some of your tips for breaking free?
I think first, to recognize that you're not in a place where you'd like to be. So to me, suffering is a really easy umbrella to basically bring your attention. If you are in a state of suffering, meaning worrying, fearing things, struggling, having a lot of challenges in life, I consider all of that to constitute suffering regarding the past, worrying about the future. If you find yourself in that place, you're typically working through something that doesn't belong to you or a limiting belief that you subscribe to. So first and foremost, it's the awareness that this is going on and the knowing now, the wisdom that it doesn't have to. So when you know, then you can see it, then you can dive in a little bit deeper and start to, like I said earlier, kind of unpack that stuff. So awareness is key to all of that. And when you make the choice, even intention is such a powerful assistant for us. So if we know we're in suffering, we don't want to be there anymore. So let's choose not to. So you just start feel into what you would prefer instead. Because as humans, we love to get that mental body super active and we find all the evidence of why things can't work, or we look and focus on the details and we get caught up in all the hows and the whys and the what ifs that we literally stop our forward movement. So I encourage people to kind of stunt that over excessive thinking and mental body and just to feel into what really feels right and true to them. Because when we tune into our authentic source, our core, we have ease, we have abundance, we have everything we need already within us. The only thing that keeps us from those things is the belief that something is in our way of it. So if we can silence those thoughts and that evidence of, the lies and limitations we've been living in, and instead feel into the potential, you start to change your vibration, you change your energy. Therefore, you start to change things that you draw back in. Because if you're vibrating in a place of fear and worry, you're actually cultivating and creating more of that in your life experience. So if you can stunt that and think, I'm going to choose not to feel that way. And what happens is we live in a density here, right? So we can change our thoughts and feelings pretty much like that instantaneously. The outcome of that might take a little bit of time to finally form here in this earthly plane that we live in. But if we have patience, knowing that we changed our thoughts, we changed our emotions, the rest is coming. We just need to be patient as it finally forms into something that we can actually see. But what we do is we get impatient. We think we changed our thoughts, we changed how we feel, but we're still not seeing that bank account go up. Well, it's because you're still looking for the evidence that it's still not going up. But if you come into that feeling of, nope, I'm abundant, I know I'm abundant, I feel I'm abundant, then eventually that will happen, and more rapidly than what you'd think if you stop getting in the way of it.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, changing thoughts I feel like it's easier said than done, right? Because we get into this like battle of like the future side of us that's like, I'm transforming and I'm changing my beliefs. But then there's this like old version of us that's like trying to pull us back into the fear mentality and to the lack mentality. So do you have tools, or are you a coach that like helps people through meditation? Like what are some tools that can help you quiet that fear side of the brain and focus more on that future, like that my relationship coach says it's like Jess 2.0, like that 2.0 version of yourself.
It's really tapping into what we want, because so many people focus on what they don't want. And that's a great place to start. You know what you don't want. But I encourage people to take a step further, because if you're in a room full of people, 9 out of 10 people will know what they don't want, but they don't know what they do. So until we know what we want, we have a harder time moving in the direction of it, right? So get kind of more clear about where you want to go. And that way that automatically starts to clear the pathway. But what happens with fear is it really ignites the nervous system, and we stay in a very contracted state. So for me, within my work, I read emotional energy. I read energy as visuals, so I can see exactly what's happening within someone's field. And when I see them being contained, against or away from everyone in their life, or how different things present themselves, we start to move through independently what's happening with that person. It gives them the freedom to then experience things differently. So meditation, I find, is a really effective tool, but I teach people how to get into their own inner worlds, because when you can understand what's happening in there, you can make changes. But what we try to do is we try to make changes in all these external moving parts, and change will not happen there. Change has to happen within. So the more you understand yourself and what's going on inside, the easier you can make change. And the other thing, and the really important part of that, is consistency. So we want to change everything all at once, and we focus 1,000 different directions. We feel overwhelmed, and then we get to a point where we say, it's too hard. We don't know what we're doing. We're going to give up everything. And then people stagnate, right? Take one thing. Just work on one thing. Like when my girls were little, I used to run around like a crazy person. I don't have enough time in my day. I don't have enough time in my day. And I thought, I'm literally creating that in my experience because I'm continuing to reiterate it. So I thought every single time that I feel overwhelmed and want to speak into that, I'm going to stop myself. And I'm going to say, nope, I have plenty of time. And I thought, oh, I have plenty of time. I have plenty of time. And I sat there feeling it. And it only took 2 days to make a huge shift in my world. By the second day, by dinner time, the dogs were walked and fed, the house was clean, the kids were done. I mean, everything was fine. And I didn't know what to do with myself because I had time. Because the dedication and the consistency to moving that in that direction had a huge payoff very quickly. But if I had only sprinkled that in every so often, it would have taken longer to get to that point. So pick one thing that is very important to you and just dedicate some effort in that direction. And you will be surprised how quickly things can shift for you.
Wow. That's amazing. And the thing that I want to circle back to that kind of lit up for me, because I can really relate to it. I had this big breakthrough recently of, like getting clear on what I want, right? And having a vision, because it's very energetic, right? Like if you're not clear on what you want, then it's an energetic block to money coming in. And I had this big breakthrough recently, and all of a sudden it just started like spilling out of my head. And I just was like, oh my God, I have to write all this down. Like all of these like goals, like long-term financial goals. And then there was like short-term stuff. I'm like, oh, I want to do this and I want to get this. And it was just like, it created so much motion and movement. Whereas before I was like, I don't know what I want. Like, I feel like I'm so grateful and I love everything I have. And I feel so happy, but I wasn't really like, I didn't really have these future goals. And once I kind of unlock whatever was blocking and write it down, I was like, I just felt so much more forward movement. So I just love that you talked about that, like getting clear on what you want.
It's so important. And we think there's a lot of programs that are running from the past that say you should, air quotes, be happy with where you are. You should be, all these shoulds, or you should work all these hours and make micro movements in your life, or all those old paradigm stuff that used to be true are no longer applicable to where we're going in this new energy, in this new earth. So things are a lot easier now than they ever have been before. And so when you can start to feel into the ease of life, and I love to simplify things. So I'm talking about big blanket statements. There's ease with everything. There's ease with relationships. There's ease with career. There's ease with money. There's ease with decision making. Think about the kind of the umbrella thing of what's going to create all the branch works to shift at one time instead of focusing only on one, because we have the capacity to do that now more than ever. I've been doing this work for over 2 decades, and I've never seen such efficiency and ease with the way that people can move through their stuff right now. So it's a great time to begin stuff. That might be another discussion, but it's basically with this ascension energy that we're getting into. We've been on this path of ascension for a long time, and the Earth's energy is vibrating at a higher frequency right now, which is then encouraging everyone on it to also vibrate at a higher frequency. We have to create a harmonic convergence with the earth, right? So as we vibrate higher, we're forced to dump off all the old density stuff, the shame, the guilt, the blame, the lack, the struggle, the challenges, all that stuff we're being encouraged to dump off. So those of us that have been on path and who are just following what lights us up are automatically moving in the direction of ease with dropping that stuff off because it's no longer in alignment. There's going to be other people that want to hold on to the old that might do this work kicking and screaming, and they're going to have a little bit more of a hard time. Lessons will get louder for them if they're trying to hold on to something that no longer fits into the new. But the earth, literally the paradigm is shifting. We're coming from the dark ages into enlightenment. This is the process spiritually we're working on right now.
Whoa, that's cool.
It's very cool. It's very cool. It's very exciting for those of us that have seen this coming for a long time. We're like, finally here. And it's intense, but we're like celebrating.
Oh my God. That is awesome. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
so
There's a lot to it. So we'll keep on track.
yeah, that's incredible. Okay. Well, so what do people like? Let me actually rephrase. Let me restart that question and we'll edit that little pitfall out.
Okay.
Okay. All right, I'm going to pick up in 3, 2, 1. So, what changes can people expect as they're diving into this inner work? Because it sounds great. Like we're going to like up, vibrate at a higher frequency. We're going to have all these like amazing beliefs, but there's some like muck to get through, right?
Oh,
Like
sure.
there's some crying that's probably going to happen, right? So, can you talk about like the experience of going through this inner work? Like, what do people need to brace themselves for?
Yeah, that's a really good question. That's actually shifting too. So the old ways of deep transformational work used to be a purge of stuff, and we still are purging, but it's different now where we don't have to walk through the trauma to heal it. And that's why I'm a huge advocate of energy clearing, because when you clear the energy, everything that's attached to that stagnation flows out as well. So we don't need to do, this talk therapy and get into all these things and all the trauma and the past and the hurt and the pain. We don't need to get into that. But when you move the energy, it's like the emotions and everything around it become more neutralized. So it's much easier to get into that stuff because you're not holding on to all the emotional pain that used to be as a stagnant energy. So what used to be, it kind of takes months or even years sometimes to heal. We're much more efficient at it now because time is speeding up and the time space continuum is shifting around this new energy too. It's becoming less linear. I know I'm getting I'll try to come back down.
I love it.
I can tend to do that a lot. It can be. But we're moving in a way now where the awareness of something can instantly start to shift the energy around it. So it almost like just having the awareness of, this was a really traumatic experience for me in the past. And I really realize how this is creating problems in me still. Like, let's say you had a really tumultuous relationship, toxic relationship, which left you in a lot of fear of opening up to someone again. Having the awareness that that peace exists within you and just setting the intentions, I really would like to open to a pure form of love. Just from recognizing what you want and starting to bring that in, it instantly starts offsetting all that old energy and trauma. So you can do that very effectively for yourself. It's helpful with energy clearing because it kind of accelerates the process. You get to where you're going much more quickly, but people can absolutely do that for themselves, especially with dedication and consistency to it. So it doesn't have to be all the old trauma purging, the heartache, all the cathartic stuff. It can literally, I laugh so much with my clients because laughing is just as effective as crying. And when you can see the humanness and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just did that. And you laugh about it, it clears and you're free of it in the same way that used to be a 4-hour cathartic cry years ago, so all of that is shifting as well.
I love that. I love that. The more I learn about energy work, I'm like, it's different, but it's like, it just feels almost like more effective or faster,
It is. Mm-hmm, for sure.
Oh, that's so cool. All right. So how can our listeners get more of you? Where can they connect with you online?
Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel. You can look under Jean Atman, and there's a couple little tips and tools. And I like to read kind of the cosmic or planetary energy and what's happening and how to navigate those forces that are coming in. I'm sure you've heard of like Mercury retrograde, and everybody gets really freaked out, wants to stay home with the covers over their heads. Yeah. But it's actually a really beautiful and productive time if you work with the energy of it. So I give people kind of tips and tools about how to gracefully move through these times, because it really is such a beautiful asking for us to do the work time. It's sort of like this beautiful container that's created for us. So if you know where to look to get into it, it can be really effective in your transformation. So I'll take little tips like that and share on YouTube. And people can also find me at jeanatman.com on my website. And I offer a free training on there. It's a webinar, how to stop sabotaging beliefs from sabotaging your future. And I also introduce within that webinar towards the end my Limitless course. So that is a course where I understand that all these old programs and everything that we sort of have grown up with created this rickety foundation, and people are trying to build in their lives on this rickety, kind of rusted out foundation. So I teach people how to excavate all that old stuff and to build this beautiful, strong platform. And then we also get into love and abundance and receiving and all these other things once people start with a better, more foundational foundation. So I also introduce that throughout the webinar.
Amazing. So jeanatman.com is where you can find all of that. JeanAtman.com. We'll put that in the show notes, the episode description. Jean, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was lots of fun.
Awesome. All right. Thanks everyone for listening to this episode.